I wanted to take a few minutes and explain why it's important for landowners, hunters, habitat managers to consider their overall objectives before they start pulling out the chainsaws or the hatchets to create a hide-hole food plot or maybe start a TSI project. A great illustration of pairing those objectives with habitat improvement projects is from a recent property I toured about an hour and a half northeast of the proving grounds. The landowner had recently purchased about 230 acres, and the property was primarily hardwood timber that had been harvested several years in the past. In fact, we saw the stumps of the trees that had been harvested, and it had been high graded, which means when the loggers came in, they removed the highest quality trees, those that brought the most profit at the time, and left the low quality trees. The low quality trees were receiving more sunlight, more water, nutrients, and they grew up and eventually created a closed canopy forest of low quality trees.
Right. Deer make that living from 0 to 3 feet, and you look through there, there's no food whatsoever right now. Right. For deer, and no cover. And so we want to get some native species in here.
As the landowner and I talked, I learned his specific goals and objectives were to provide hunting opportunities for members of his family, which included younger hunters and hunters that were, primarily hunting with a firearm. But then he also wanted to be able to bow hunt the property himself. As we toured, I used the HuntStand app to make notes of my observations and really took time to explain the details to the landowner of how to improve the native habitat and use the release process to produce high quality food plot forage. We have many videos that dive into the details of the release process for improving food plot forage and improving native habitat. Maybe you're managing hardwoods or cedars or maybe pines, and you wish to open up a closed canopy forest, allow more sunlight to reach the ground, and then manage that area to provide high quality forage and cover for critters. I encourage you to check out those videos and learn more about those techniques. Not only are native areas very beautiful to look at and extremely productive for wildlife, offering both native browse and cover, but for a hunter, it provides many opportunities to see critters. That closed canopy forest and a lot of low quality stems, it's tough to see 100 yards or squeeze a bullet through there. But if we open that up and have high quality vegetation between some large productive oaks, man, that's going to be beautiful, and hunters can see a lot of critters and effectively hunt those areas. This is a very effective hunting strategy, and we've shared many hunts from here at the Proving Grounds where we've tagged some great bucks out of those areas.
Oh my. He's down.
So when I started laying out the native habitat on the property, you can tell by the 3D feature on HuntStand that much of the native habitat is on the side slopes. And for a firearm hunter, man, that's awesome. They can cover a lot of ground, several 100 yards. But for a bow hunter, it's a little tougher to get on those side slopes and get within bow range of a deer without that wind wanting to swirl. So we need to get up on top of the ridge where the wind is more consistent and start creating or finding bottlenecks to get deer within range of a bow hunter.
Growing Deer is brought to you by Bass Pro Shops and Cabela's. Also by Green Cover Food Plots, Winchester, Lacrosse Footwear, Moultrie Mobile, Fleet Outdoor Apparel, Morel Targets, RTP Outdoors, Fourth Arrow, HuntStand, Scorpion Venom Archery, Case IH Tractors, Burris Optics, G5 Broadheads, Prime Bows, and Redneck Hunting Blinds.
Each property is unique. So when I started looking at this property, you can tell the middle of the property is pretty much one long ridge. In fact, it kind of tapers off to the west and creates what we call an elevator ridge, where it's easy for deer to travel up and down the terrain, going from high to low or low to high elevation. And up on top of the ridge, the previous owner had created a large food plot. Now there was still some flat land to work with, so we really needed to dive in on this site-specific plan and figure out how we were going to get some bottlenecks up on this ridge. When we zoom out on the map and we look at the surrounding properties, we're seeing a lot of high-graded timber and fescue cattle pasture. It's obvious that food is a limited resource in the area. And you're going, man, Daniel, you've got some flat land up on top of that ridge. Let's just create one big food plot. That's that limited resource. Of course you're gonna pull deer in. And that might have been an option if the landowner was only firearm hunting and didn't have as many hunters, but he needed more hunting locations and bow hunting locations. So instead, I started designing a series of small food plots and hidey holes, kind of using that large feeding destination plot as our foundation. Now we've created a lot of bottlenecks and hunting locations that a bow hunter can hunt during different wind directions. Our native habitat also comes into play. We're going to use that as a feature to bottleneck deer even more. You'll notice I didn't recommend that the landowner use TSI in between the food plots. And that's going to create these hard edges and hardwood travel corridors as deer sneak around the edge of food plots or as they travel to and from the food plots. It just worked out that that food plot had been created in the middle of the property. And that's great because now these smaller plots and these travel corridors are acting as transition zones. A hunter can slip in the afternoon and hunt and allow deer to travel past them to that destination food plot, and then they can slip down without alerting deer and go back to the cabin or back to the truck. And in the mornings they can sneak in, climb up the tree or into the blind while the deer are out in that larger plot feeding, and catch them coming back to a favorable bedding area. Hunting transition zones has its benefits. You reduce alerting deer and you gain some minutes on your shooting light. You know, if you were hunting right on that large food plot, deer may not step out until right at dark. But by being several hundred yards back and being in that transition zone, your odds are much higher to have a deer within range during shooting light. This landowner's already chomping at the bit to start implementing the plan. And I gotta tell you, as that native habitat improves and he starts building soil health and getting really healthy, palatable food plot forage, this property is going to be a gem and he's going to enjoy some great hunts. And the design and the habitat improvements work together to meet his goals and objectives to provide hunting opportunities for his family, for firearm hunters, and for him as a bow hunter. If you're starting to lay out some food plots or start on some habitat improvement work, make sure you consider how those improvements and changes are going to affect deer movement and future hunting opportunities. This project is a great example of how hidey hole food plots paired with some habitat improvement work can create some great bottlenecks in timber country. If you'd like to learn more about hidey hole food plots and how to create bottlenecks in timber country, we'll be sharing several videos later this spring as we walk through the steps of creating a hidey hole food plot with hand tools, planting and managing them as we prepare for fall hunting season. Getting outside and improving habitat is a great way to enjoy creation. But I hope you take time this week and work to improve your relationship with the Creator and understand His will for your life. Thanks for watching Growing Deer.